Hey guys, welcome back. So I had recorded a video back in, I think it was the beginning of December, and with the holidays, everything got a little bit crazy. And so I was going through my files and I was like, oh my gosh, I never posted this. And so I wanted to just do a intro to the video just because when I'm talking about things, I'm talking about this past year, the previous year, and I'm referencing the years 2021 and 2022, just for a little bit of clarity and better context. But I thought that this was a really appropriate video, so I did still want to post it and share it with you guys. So without any further ado, let's get into the intro and into the video. Hey guys, welcome back. I have a new mic setup, so hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better. But today I wanted to talk about kind of some of the major transformative energy that is taking place on the planet and is heavily impacting not just myself, but my clients, my friends, my family. I know a lot of people that are moving through this really, really intense transformative energy, and we're seeing it on the planet. We're seeing things just kind of collapse. And what I decided to term this for myself to feel more empowered is having a phoenix year. And I think that that's a beautiful representation of when things kind of tend to go up in flames and burn down, and then something new and beautiful is born from those ashes. And for me, that is definitely how I experienced the past year. Um, I guess now at this point, it's about a year and a half. But for me, it kind of all started with I had a job that I've been at for a really long time, and the ownership of that business was sold. And so my not not exactly my position changed, but it made me realize how much of my own time and energy I was putting into something that I personally would never see a true return on that energy for. And so it made me start kind of looking at and better assessing what that change was going to be. And it wasn't till later that it became more impactful, but that was the first thing that happened to me. Then I found out that my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she did end up passing last year. And then at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I exited a relationship that was fairly toxic. And I will always love that person, but just because we love somebody doesn't mean that that's a good and healthy relationship for either party. And so those were a lot of really major changes. I ended up moving out, leaving that person, and my whole life kind of reorganized itself in that succession of losses and changes. I ended up making a lot of profound mental emotional leaps when my mom passed. It made me realize, like with the job that I had, well, I still work there and I love the place that I work at and I love the new owner. Um, they're wonderful. However, I realized how much time I was putting into that, and because of that, I had a deficit of energy to care for myself, both physically and mentally, to pursue the things that I'm passionate about and to really have time for my relationships. And so I realized in that emotional container of losing my mom that I wasn't willing to give myself away anymore. And losing my mom, she was right at the age where my dad had just retired. They had all of these plans. It's like, you're told, you've got to work so hard for so long, you got to save up your money so that you can retire and then you can enjoy life. And watching that be not the outcome of my parents' experience was really hard and really eye-opening to work for so long thinking you're saving up this time, money, energy to do these things that you have no guarantee on. There is no guarantee on tomorrow. And so it made me really reassess what happiness looked like. And I think that is part of what helped me realize that the relationship that I was in was not in my highest and best good. There were other things, but those are personal things. But it was definitely eye-opening to realize that I identified that I was in a codependent relationship, but it was in a way that I didn't realize was codependency. When I think of codependency, I always think about how that's being reliant on another person. And I've seen people be very codependent. They need their person, they need their person. Well, the type of codependency I was displaying was I was so focused on the happiness and well being of the person I was in the relationship with and whether or not that relationship was successful that I completely and totally negated my own happiness, just like I was not paying attention to my own level of happiness and well being in my job. And so I have had this tendency of giving myself away for the higher and best good of other people. And that's something that I think Spirit really asked me to look at when I had this Phoenix year. It was really looking at, this is a personal journey. When we leave, the only thing we get to take with us is soul growth. It's about our own personal experiences. We come to the earth plane, we come to the earth school to learn. And so all of those experiences were really profound in helping me better understand, how do I take care of myself? How do I respect my boundaries? And with that brought on a huge, huge need for self-care. It made me realize how much I was not caring for myself with all of the time that I was spending at my job. Like it was supposed to be a 40-hour work week, but I was working at least 50 to 55 hours. And just, I would stay late doing things and just realizing how impactful that was and how much it took away from my ability to care for myself. And I think that's something that as a society we really struggle with. We don't have the amount of time that we need to care for ourselves. And in everything that happened, I ended up taking a step back from the job. I stepped down as manager and went down to part-time. And in that space, I was really able to better develop my other business pursuits that I had really wanted to bring to the forefront for a long time and just hadn't had the time and energy to devote the time that I do now to that. And so I have a lot of gratitude. And actually right before the ending of my relationship, I was in meditation. It was actually I think it was the super full moon. And my guides asked me, "Do you trust us?" And I said, "Yes." And they asked me to give the commitment of, you know, that I was willing to give up anything and everything that no longer served me so that I can move into my highest and best good. And it was a few days after that that my relationship did end. And I was made to see that it was not in my highest and best good to stay with that person. As heartbreaking as that was, it can be really hard when you think that you're supposed to be with somebody forever and that doesn't work out. And so, in this fracturing of what my life was, like I said, it's like job, family, relationship, all of these things burned down for me. And I as hard as it was emotionally, I've really come to learn that anytime I have major things happen in my life, there's always a gift inside that shadow. Anytime you have a dark night of the soul, there's always a lot of expansion and growth that comes from it. And so, as difficult as it was, this wasn't the first dark night of the soul I've been through. And so I realized, okay, what do I need to do? Self-care was pivotal. Pivotal. So, doing things like taking care of my physical body, I made sure that I was very active, going and moving because I had so many emotions that were just whirling around inside of me. That was super challenging. So making sure I was physically moving, and every time I would feel really emotional, I would try and go do something physical to like let those emotions out. Another thing, because I was no longer in a physical relationship or in a romantic relationship, I wasn't getting those hugs and things that I was used to on a daily basis. So I increased how frequently I was getting massages done so that I could have some sort of physical contact with another human because there are certain endorphins that our brain releases when you hug somebody. If you hug somebody for more than, I think it's like 15 it's like 15 to 45 seconds. I think it's oxytocin that our brain releases. I should probably look this up before I start sharing this with you guys. But there's chemicals in our brain that are released that add to our overall well-being. And when you leave a relationship with somebody, that's one of the biggest things. It's like you're used to physical contact, and that feeds your emotional body and your soul. And to not have that is a big deal. It again, it's like there's chemicals that are released that you're going through an emotional withdrawal, but you're also going through a physical chemical withdrawal from the brain. So I did things like that. I increased the frequency of energy work that I was getting done. I have regular chiropractic and acupuncture sessions. Like I did so much self-care. It was so important to me to make sure that I was taking care of all of those needs. I also did therapy. I wanted to make sure that I processed through everything because anything that we don't process through gets stuck in us. The body keeps a score. That is an amazing book. Anybody who's gone through trauma, whether it's big T, little t, fantastic book for understanding that when you have emotional things that happen, whether it's loss or, a major trauma of some kind, that impacts the body. Those emotions have to go somewhere. And if you don't release them, which is why like doing physical activity is fantastic, um, they stay stuck in the body. And at some point, you have to release them. So, taking care of the physical body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, the mental body. And then lastly, sleep. Sleep was really a challenge for me when I was going through all of this. So, for me personally, obviously, I can't recommend for anybody else, but for me, I found that CBD oil and melatonin were incredibly helpful during that time. It was you have to be able to sleep to be able to function. And not being able to sleep was pretty impactful. And when I wasn't able to sleep, because at that time I was lucky if I was getting maybe 4 hours of sleep, and that was very challenging. I did a lot of meditating. And I know in my last video I talked about meditating. There's a lot of different ways to do that. That was one of those times where I did a lot of silent meditating where I just sat with either binaural beats or different frequencies that are really beneficial for healing. But I also did the type of meditation where I would ask my guides, what am I supposed to do? And when I was so very in touch with my self care, that was when I honestly noticed an incredible amount of synchronicity. Being in that flow state of self care, of being really present, I experienced so many beautiful synchronicities that happened in my life to help take care of me, to help me better move into those areas of expansion that I really wanted to focus on. So, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit with you guys as far as what my personal journey was, because like I said, I've had a number of clients, friends, family. I've just known a lot of people right now with the energy on the planet being so transformative that it's not just an external thing, it's impacting us personally too. And so I've encountered a lot of people feeling shame for having to kind of have everything fall apart and start over again. It's like, "Oh, I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, like this is not what I thought my life was going to look like." I thought for me personally, I thought I had a very set trajectory, and all of that completely collapsed and changed. And in a lot of ways, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves. I know for me, it was a little bit like and I guess that's why I used the term of the a phoenix here. It's you are reborn from the ashes. You get a chance to redefine who you are, how people see you, interact with you when you go through that transformation. I let go of so many things at that point. When I moved out, I donated a ton of things. I have very few personal possessions now compared to what I used to. And I found that to be such a cathartic and beautiful thing to release all of those things. Just like in our physical space, when things are cluttered, it affects our mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so it's, decluttering physically, decluttering emotionally, decluttering energetically, having a clear energetic container. These are all really important, impactful things when we are addressing self-care. So that's just another layer of that physical is looking at the stuff. And I know this is kind of a side tangent to where I was going, but these are all things that impact our ability to care for ourselves and that are impacted by massive change that we have. And so I guess I just want to present it as an opportunity. Sometimes it can seem really scary, but when we have these opportunities to let go, it doesn't just have to be on the emotional or mental, it can be on the physical, and that can be cathartic too. So I wanted to share some of that and just remind you that going through these stages, starting over isn't necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you failed in life. There are plenty of people who have had amazing success that they learned how to succeed because they failed. So I, again, want to invite you to look at the terminology of the phoenix or the representation of the phoenix as a great way to view when you're going through massive change because it is a beautiful analogy for when things kind of go up in flames in your life and you have the opportunity to, you know, redefine yourself and rise from those ashes and soar on this beautiful new expression of who you are. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully that's helpful. I would love for you to share your experiences down below in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all of those of you who love to interact with me in these videos. I love being able to give feedback and to hear your individual experiences. So I hope that you found this video helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one.